The next day, we were setting up for practice. Scotty looked like he was stoned.
Dude, have you been hitting my stash?
It's in a panel under my parents' house, isn't it?
Ah, shit. My parents pay good money for that,
Devin replied. We all looked at Devin like he was really strange.
Your parents buy you weed?
Scotty asked. Devin paused.
No, just never mind. Can you at least pay me a couple bucks next time? Fine.
Devin went out to smoke, and then he came back a minute later.
You finished it? Yeah, sorry, brother,
Scotty said.
I have another bag at home. Casey, can you give me a ride then real quick? It'll take 2 minutes when we get there.
Devin begged.
I'm not going anywhere, you fucking junkie,
Casey barked.
No, dude, I won't be able to keep time or get loose until I take this stuff. I'm serious. So it's for medicinal purposes.
We all laughed. Devin sat down.
Man, fuck you guys. I'm not doing shit until I get to smoke.
You really can't play without it?
No.
Let me see your best, brother. He gets on drums and plays. He did okay, but then he went off time slightly. About a minute into a 2-minute song.
Try again.
Then he tried again and played worse this time.
Dude, you got weed on the brain. Chill out and play.
Scotty shouted.
I can't fucking loosen up, man. I'm in pain.
We all looked at each other.
Casey, just take him.
Fine. Let's go, stoner boy. Devin grabbed his shoulder while he got up and they walked out.
That kid needs to quit that shit,
Scotty said. Yeah, he's hooked, I replied. I was worried about Devin. He let the weed control him and I didn't understand why. I never understood why people got addicted to substances. Then again, I never had them myself.
I mean, it's all in his head. The pain, everything. He's addicted,
Scotty said. And they came back and Devin smoked outside for a few minutes. He came back in, still looking serious, but he got on drums and played like nothing ever happened. After practice, we all hung out in back and Devin smoked some more. So, are you feeling better? I asked. Devin looked down.
It's nothing. Just some aches and pains I get. No big deal.
You really should get that checked and lay off that stuff, man, I replied.
What makes you think I haven't? Man, it's just some aches and pains. Don't worry about it.
So, how's Kelly doing, man? I asked Casey.
She's alright.
You guys cool? I asked.
Yeah, we just haven't seen each other a lot lately. With me doing the landscaping and her doing the waitress shit. We're still good, we just haven't seen each other. We're supposed to hang out and watch fireworks after the gig Wednesday.
I nodded. Scotty just rolled his eyes.
Hey, can I get a hit off that man?
Scotty asked. Devin rolled his eyes and passed him the pipe. It was the 4th of July. The day of our big local gig had arrived. We only had to load our guitars and drums on the truck. The festival provided the PA and the amps for us. Ken drove Scotty, Devin, and me. Casey drove with Bradley in front and Marcos on the truck bed with the equipment. We were playing at the festival at Wavewind Theme Park nearby. There were a lot of people there waiting anxiously for the fireworks display that would be held later on. There were trees and neon lights all around. We unloaded the drums and set them up on stage. It was kind of a pain in the ass considering while we were loading, Devin did his music ritual in Casey's truck. We went on stage, plugged in, and did our sound check. There were quite a few people waiting for us to play. Sarah pushed through and was standing behind someone who was front and center by the stage. There was a good 100 people in the crowd. Then 15 minutes later, Devin shouted, "Levanta!" and we started to play. We did a few covers and then did our originals. A lot of people looked like they were getting into it. The more we played, the more rowdy the crowd got. Eventually a big mosh pit broke out and got out of control. It got larger and larger until it swept Sarah down into it. I kept playing until I realized no one was helping her back up. Then I threw my guitar down. "The fuck are you doing?" Casey yelled. I jumped off stage and leapt over the barricade to push people out of the way. I had to wrestle with some people as they tried moshing with me. I reached Sarah as I helped her up, pulled her towards the guardrail with me, and had her sit on the side of the stage. I handed her my bottle of water and picked the guitar back up. Scotty looked at her and she shook his head. And shook his head. I continued playing until the end of the song, and then I got on the mic. "Alright, man, I don't belong behind the mic, but just so we know having the show stop 10 minutes early, if somebody falls, help them. We're here to rock out, not kill people. This is my girlfriend Sarah. Don't kill Sarah." "Sarah!" a voice yelled from the crowd. She laughed and hid her face in embarrassment. We got quite a big reaction. A lot of girls with big boobs were jumping around after the performance. We loaded our equipment back up on the truck, and then Casey and Devin drove the gear back home. We stuck around, but didn't want our equipment to get stolen. Plus, Devin needed to go do his post-gig toke, and felt like it was safer at Scotty's. Sarah and I walked around the theme park when we came across basketball hoops. "Let's play. Me against you," Sarah said. "I haven't played basketball in a while." "Oh, come on." Then she pulled me as we ran over to the game. She seemed really excited. The attendant was a chubby Puerto Rican guy with a goatee and long black hair in a ponytail. "$1.50. You get 60 seconds. Here's the deal. You get 3 balls. You gotta get at least 5 shots to win this mini basketball hoop with the mini basketball set." He pointed at the hoop. "If you get 10 or higher, you can choose what you get. If you get less than 5, but still get more than your opponent, you get a free Psyche keychain. Think Nike. Y'all down?" "Yes," Sarah shouted. I handed the guy $3. "Okay, ready? Go." He pushed the button and the timer started. The first 30 seconds, I got about 3 shots. Sarah got 2. The next 30 seconds, I was at 6. Sarah was at 6. It was close. But at the 88-second mark, I hit the 10th shot. You! Then she slapped my shoulder. Winner! The attendant pointed at me. What'll it be, sir? He asked. Then I noticed a Benny the Bull figure with the Bulls jersey. Benny the Bull stuffed animal with a Bulls jersey, and pointed to it. Benny the Bull, I said. Then he handed it to me. I held it high in the air. She shook her head. Pretty proud of that, aren't you? She asked. I looked at her. Why? Don't you want it? She looked at me and rolled her eyes. No. I stopped and pivoted my body towards a trash can nearby. Oh, you don't? I mean, I got that for you, but if you don't want it, I can just... I started walking towards the trash. No, she shouted as she attempted to take Benny out of my hands and laughed. I started moving my arm around, and then she ran up and kissed me. Hey, you're not fighting fair, I said to her. She laughed and kissed me again. Okay, I give. Then I gave Benny to her. Thank you, she said. Then she hugged me. We walked over to an arcade that had DDR. Let's play, she tugged my arm. I rolled my eyes and walked over with her. I put my money in it for the coins and played the game. I put my money in the coin machine and then played the game. I can barely dance, let alone play it on a game. She did way better than I did on that. I basically failed. Now I win, she yelled out. Yeah, where's your prize? I asked playfully. She giggled and struck me in the shoulder. Suddenly, someone jumped on her back from behind and screamed, "Hello!" He shouted as I turned to see. It was Devin. He got off her back and spun in front of her. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself earlier. I'm Devin. He held out his hand and she shook it. Hi, I'm Sarah. Don't kill Sarah! Devin shouted. She rolled her eyes and smiled at me. We walked around the park when we ran into a clown holding balloons. He gave one to Devin. Devin took off the ribbon and untied it to suck the helium out of it. He ran over by the dog vendor and yelled, hot dog vendor, and yelled, with his voice full of helium, "Who wants to eat my hot dog?" We tried to hold in our laughter, then waited in line to order. When it was Devin's turn, he ordered his hot dog. $2.50, the man said behind the cart. He was a short, bald, chubby man with a thick black mustache, who wore a red and white checkered apron over a blue shirt. "I'll trade you for a song," Devin exclaimed, and started singing the Oscar Mayer Wiener song. "Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer Wiener." The helium wore off while we waited in line, so it was no longer inside of him. "Look, pal, I got other people waiting. $2.50. Devin turned around and yelled, "Are you people not entertained?" The people behind us cheered. He continued to sing as the hot dog vendor threw the hot dog on the counter. "Just take your damn hot dog and beat it." Devin took his hot dog, turned to us, and whispered, "What a sucker." We ordered our hot dogs and found a spot to sit. Casey and Kelly found us about 10 minutes later. I guess Ken took Scotty home. They went to mess with their own fireworks at Ken's house. I could just see Scotty's face light up as he lit the fuse, watching them all explode. Then I looked around. Has anyone seen Bradley or Marcos? They went to some magic show. I told them to meet us by the truck if they can't find us, Casey uttered with his coarse voice. The sky went dark, and the stars came out. Sarah and I were lying side by side, staring up at the sky. Her hand rested upon my chest. "Thank you for helping me earlier today," she said. I smiled and looked into her eyes. The fireworks started right when we kissed. Then suddenly, right behind us, somebody slid into both our heads. "Marcos! Come see, you're missing it!" Bradley yelled in his high-pitched tone. Then we scooted over a few feet so we could have some space. "Come on, you're missing it!" We weren't going to let some crazy interruptions ruin our night. The moonlight, the fireworks, the colorful lights around us. Romance was in the air. We were stuck in a trance, young and in love. Whatever happened around us was not getting between us. It was one beautiful night. Call me unpatriotic, but I didn't really like the music that was playing that night. I respect the message and the words, but the first song they played was ROCK in the USA by John Cougar Mellencamp, Coming to America by Neil Diamond, Amazing Grace covered by Elvis Presley, Small Town by John Cougar Mellencamp, some instrumentals of America the Beautiful, and other patriotic songs. Now, I have no problem with what these songs represent, but if I were to do the music, it would go like this. Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, America the Beautiful by Ray Charles, Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys, American Pie by Don McLean, and Sweet Home Alabama by Skinner. Even if we aren't in Alabama, it's still a great tune. I don't mind the other songs, but I would have chosen different tunes. Everyone got up and walked to the parking lot after the fireworks. "You guys want to ride with us?" Casey asked. "No, it's a nice night. We're gonna walk." "Alright, see you at practice." We waved goodbye and began walking. The streets were packed. After about 15 minutes, they became less and less congested. We were goofing around, poking each other as we walked. The ground ahead of us started flashing red and blue. We turned around and we were stopped by an officer. He pulled to the side. He was a short guy with dark, spiky hair. He had a goatee and a pointy nose. "Evening. Y'all been drinking tonight?" He asked in his southern accent. "No," I said. "No, sir," Sarah replied. "Y'all couldn't get a ride?" "It's a nice night. We just wanted to walk." "Y'all got ID?" "We have student IDs," I replied. "Student IDs? Getting awfully close to curfew, ain't it?" he asked. We didn't think it'd be an issue. It's 4th of July and we haven't been stopped before. "Well, I'm gonna let you go this time, but if I catch you out here past curfew again, we gonna have a problem." "Yes, sir," Sarah said. I nodded. He drove off as we started walking in. I shook my head. What a prick. I mean, yes, we are technically out past curfew, but when you're at a popular city event, people are gonna walk. I bet there are more people walking around the corner. We turned around, and a group of teens were goofing around about a block away. See? I shouted. We both laughed. What slipped my mind at the time was that I actually turned 18 a few weeks before that. Sarah was still 17, though. Her birthday wasn't until October 10th. Yet I still find it irritating that it's okay if the herd gets away as long as you round up a few cattle. If they were serious, enforcement should act like it. A week later, Devin and I made plans to hang out at my house. He wanted to introduce me to Sega. His mom pulled up in her 1976 Buick Estate station wagon. Devin held the system with one arm and his backpack on his shoulder. I took his backpack and we went inside. He unplugged my NES and set up his Sega. I have Sonic, but we'll play that later. Right now I want to show you Road Rash 2. It's a motorcycle racing game where you can drive around and kick up people off their bikes. Especially cops. He put that game in, and then we sat on the couch and played. At first he played the one-player version, just to show me the ropes. He ran into a car on the game and went flying off his bike after playing for about 20 minutes during the first attempt, and got knocked off his bike by a cop in his second attempt. After that, he showed me the controls, and we played a 2-player game. First few seconds of the game, he knocked me off my bike. "Tag, bitch, you're it," he yelled. Towards the end of the race, I started catching up, when he practically jumped into my lap to mess me up while crossing the finish line. "Winner and still champion," he yelled. "Whatever, man. Next round, you stay on your side. I'll get you back." That night, we walked to Lennys. His mom offered us free dinner. I was a little paranoid while walking there because even though we were both 18, Devin had this portable vaporizer, which was shaped like an inhaler that his friend made for him. You couldn't find anything like that on the market at this time. If I could make my own superpowers, I'd have a painkiller ability. That way, if I had any headaches or any aches at all, I could just beam it right out, Devin said. "Are you in pain now? Were you before?" I asked. "Nah, man, just saying in general. That'd be awesome." "How come you're always in pain, anyhow?" Devin looked down and shrugged. "Not always. Comes and goes. Born that way, I guess." "That sucks," I replied. We arrived at Lennys. "Hi, boys," his mom exclaimed. "Come, sit," she said in a cheerful tone. She seated us, and we sat in silence for a few minutes. "So, do you have a computer?" "Nah, I don't have much at my house. Just the NES, my stereo, and a basketball. And the guitar gear Scotty gave me." "That's cool. Things you own end up owning you. You are the all-singing, all-dancing crap of the world." I looked at him in confusion. "Dude, you haven't seen Fight Club yet?" he shouted. I shook my head. "I know you have plans tomorrow with Sarah, but the day after I'm bringing that over.
And we're watching that on VHS.
A curvy, dark-haired girl passed us by our table.
Boobs!
Devin yelled. I shook my head and laughed. His mom walked over to lecture him.
I don't get it. What's so offensive about that? I'm simply pointing out she has everything that every other female has.
They might not see it that way. Just behave, please, she replied, and then walked away. On our way out, his mom went to start the car when we saw a hot blonde girl with her boyfriend.
Boobs!
Devin shouted once again as her boyfriend whipped around. Her boyfriend was this big Italian-looking guy with a tight white shirt, and his hair was slicked back. He spun around and glared at us. He had a face like Andy Garcia, who was a Hollywood actor. We rushed out the door and ran into the car. You did it again, didn't you? His mom asked.
I couldn't help it,
Devin replied.
Sarah and I met in the park for our usual lunch date the next day.
We made out for a bit and got up to go back to her house. Apparently, we forgot to check the weather that day because the rain started pouring halfway there. We started running as fast as we could, stumbling over bumps and holes in the ground. There was a forest trail in the back of the houses we ran past, so we went that way. A deer jumped out as we fell back into a ditch with a mud puddle. The deer looked at us, then looked at traffic to our left, and marched back into the woods, where it came from. When we got up and started running again, we were out of breath from laughing at what we had witnessed. A few minutes later, we finally reached the house and went in to wash our hands in the kitchen. Her mom walked over to us.
What happened to you kids?
We forgot to check the weather. We took the forest trail and a deer jumped out at us and we fell in the mud, Sarah said, and laughed. Luckily, we only got mud on our arms and elbows. I don't think Sarah had any clothes that would fit me, size nor style. She was wearing a light blue sleeveless blouse with her short blue denim shorts. It looked really great on her, but it probably wouldn't look so great on me.
Calvin!
Leo shouted as he ran up and hugged me. Hey man, I replied, prying him off of me after a minute.
Leo, go get your finger paints. We're gonna do some artwork.
Then she looked at me. You want to paint with us?
I suck at painting,
I replied.
It's just goofing around, she said.
I shrugged. Okay.
Great.
We went into the basement, and she set up an extra easel. Leo set his paints and paper on the floor. The floor was concrete in that little section of the basement. It was her art studio. After everything was set up, she started painting. I tried to think of what to do. I looked at her for a moment while she dove into her work, and I started painting light brown waves, which bordered the canvas. After I finished that, I mixed light pink and yellow to make a skin color and spread that around the canvas. Then mixed two little circles with light blue and light green. Done. The canvas was complete.
Calvin, check it out.
I turned around to look at Leo's paper. He painted Mario. Only his paper looked more like Mr. Potato Head disguised as Mario. I looked over at Sarah's painting. She wasn't quite done yet. She drew a black background with splashes of paint in different colors all over. "Are those fireworks?" I asked. She smiled. "Yep. That was a great night." "Yeah, it was." Then she looked at mine. "What's that?" she asked. "It's an abstract painting. I call it Shades of Sarah. I painted the color of her hair mixed with the color of her eyes and skin." "That's me?" "No, those are the shades of colors on you." She smiled and then kissed me on the cheek. That's the crazy thing about art. I know you don't really paint, but it's all about ideas, interpretations, and feelings. Most critics don't understand. That's one reason I'm kind of hesitant about going to art school, I guess. There are so many judgmental people who will tell you what you are doing is wrong, Sarah said. "See? That's why we need you to do the cover art for our flyers and albums. You understand artistic expression. You won't make some generic picture that has no meaning. That art school needs someone like you in it. Not to show off, not to prove anything, but to represent individual expression and freedom," I said with enthusiasm. She smiled and rolled her eyes. Devin came over the next day with his Fight Club VHS tape. "You ready, dude?" I nodded. "Levanta!" he exclaimed as he put the tape in. There's an interesting story about how we drove ourselves crazy with the normality of our everyday lives. How we lock ourselves inside these standards and expectations that make us miserable. Tyler Durden broke the narrator free into a world of chaos. At least that's how I interpret it. Like I said the other day, the things you own end up owning you. Get yourself a corporate job so you can work insane hours and get drilled by your boss so you can support your kids and wife. This is why I became a musician. There are many musicians who have never sold their souls to corporations. They do what they want, they live comfortably. Take 9 Inch Nails, for example. Trent Reznor rules his shit. He doesn't let God money tell him what to do. Which was a reference to Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails. I don't know, man. I thought that movie was a little out there. How is everyone still working and supporting these things that they're fighting against? That's the point, man. They're the all singing, all dancing crap of the world. They are no different. They are not special. They work within the system, and when the time comes, they do what they have to do when they need to do it. They are saying their job doesn't control what they are anymore. Project Mayhem. I'll admit it had its inspiring moments. I like the views on freedom and how he took control with his boss, I said. It's a really punk rock story, man, Devin replied. I rolled my eyes. Devin is always talking about what punk is and what punk is not. Punk is all in spirit. The more you try to define it, the vaguer your definition becomes. I just find it lame when people debate over something that you really can't put into a box. I hate how we all feel like we as a whole have to do certain things. College is important, but how many Americans in this country don't get the chance to go? If they do, how many people actually successfully get a degree? I'm sure there's a higher percentage of people who do, but at the same time,
there's that percentage of people who don't. To tell someone that they need to do this or that is like saying, we are all clones. We think the same. We have the same skills. And we have the same DNA. That's bullshit. I mean, can you play the drums? No. Well, there you go. So many people are trying to tell us in order to succeed, we need to sacrifice our individuality by doing things that we are required by social and professional standards. There might be balance between individual and professional, but there's a way to balance that without throwing yourself into something that could drive you insane in the long run. And then Devin ranted on. I'm not sure if we truly grasped what that movie was about at the time, but we continued to talk for a couple hours about life and how we wish our world could be. We may have been going on and on about things that are considered insane or stupid, but at least we were talking about them instead of blindly going on with our lives. As if we were machines going from point A to point B without any question. On August 15th, 2001, a friend of Ken's threw a senior year back-to-school party. There were alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. It was a huge white house, not a mansion, but a big white 3-story house. The guys apparently were out of town, or the guy's parents were apparently out of town on business. They must have been really well off, because he also had a big pool in his backyard. We set up downstairs in his basement and hung out for an hour before we went on. I went to look around. They had a big grand piano in their living room, a 55-inch big screen TV with surround sound and glass tables with black upholstered dining chairs. Black leathered upholstered dining chairs. The room had to be 12 to 18 feet in height. In the kitchen, I saw their stainless steel fridge. It actually made me really uncomfortable being there. I felt like I didn't belong. I ran into Ken, who had a beer in his hand. "Sup, Cal? You want beer, man?" he asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. "Nah, I'm gonna stick with soda for now." "Alright, you want a soda?" I nodded. "Follow me, bruh." We navigated our way through the crowd. Some of the guys from the football team were there. They started walking towards me, and Mike Cass swooped in front of them. They looked at him like he was nuts. A drunk, busty blonde girl with a big gummy smile, wearing a bikini, walked over to me and started playing with my hair. "I love your hair," she said. I smiled politely and kept walking. This chubby Asian goth girl with a short, dark, boy-style haircut and penciled eyebrows, wearing a black dress and black lipstick, sneered at me. "Ew, who are you?" I continued walking through the crowd. "Thanks for talking to me, asshole," she shouted. I think that was her defensive way of being friendly. We finally reached the cooler. I grabbed a soda and hung around with Ken for a bit. A tall Asian guy with a skater cut that went right above his ears, wearing a Lakers jersey, walked up to us. "Sup, CJ?" Ken exclaimed as he shook his hand and patted his shoulder. "Yo, Cal, this is CJ. If you guys ever need somebody to record or even remix music, this is your man." "Ah, you a musician? What kind of music you play?" CJ asked. "Punk." "Alright. I never really mixed punk music before, but I'm up for a challenge. Tell you what, man. What's your email?" I don't have one," I replied.
How you expect to get your name out there if you don't have an email? I shrugged. I don't expect to be anything. I tell you what, man. I'm gonna give you my number. You can call, use my computer, and get yourself an email. I live like 5 minutes from here. How far from here do you live? Like 20 minutes? I replied. You ever drove by the old antique mall? I shook my head. I don't drive. Dude, you're 18 and you don't drive? I never felt I needed to. You got a girl? Yeah. She's gonna want you to drive her around eventually. I shrugged and looked down, feeling awkward. Alright, I tell you what, man. Give me a number. I'll call you in a week, and we'll set up an email and chill. Okay. He handed me a pen and tore off a piece of paper. I wrote my number down and gave it to him. This dude can take you to the next level, brah, Ken said. I wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but I guess I would find out soon enough. We went downstairs to get ready. Devin shouted, "Levanta!" Then we started to play. The crowd started going nuts through our set. There was no barricade for this gig. People were acting like idiots and jumping off any surface they could, running into anyone they could. People started throwing their beer cups at us for fun. This one guy tried to mosh with Scotty, but Scotty picked up his mic stand and swung it at him as a warning. It was complete chaos, and Devin was loving every minute of it. After we finished our set, we loaded the truck. Then Casey got out. Casey and Scotty drove back real quick to unload the equipment. Or load the equipment and then load it back in the house. That's what it meant. In the meantime, I walked around and saw Sarah. "Hey," I exclaimed. "Hey," she replied. "Hey," she replied. As she hugged me tight. "You missed our set." "No, I've been here. I just saw how crazy it was down there and thought it was better to listen from up here." I smirked. "Yeah, we don't want a sequel to that last episode." She slapped me on the shoulder and smiled. I felt someone pressing up behind me, which is odd considering there was a lot of space where we were standing. I turned to the side. It was the goth chick. She was smiling. She kept touching my chest. "Hi. You were great tonight." Sarah gave me a look. "I think she's talking about the show." "Yeah." "Who are you?" I asked in confusion. "Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Fiona." "Hi, I'm Kelvin. This is my girlfriend, Sarah." Fiona looked up at me while rubbing my chest. "Do you want to go for a walk?" she asked. I looked over at Sarah awkwardly. "I repeat, this is my girlfriend, Sarah." Then she stopped and looked at Sarah. "Oh." Then she looked back at me and sneered. "You disgust me," she shouted as she walked away. "You disgust me." I held Sarah's hand as we made our way to the cooler and got her a soda. We heard somebody shouting in the next room. We walked over and saw Scotty yelling at a dark-haired girl from the cheer squad. "You are a whore, just like all your friends, every single one of you bitches." He was stumbling as he moved, as if he was drunk. Casey pushed through the crowd and lifted Scotty over his shoulder. Then Scotty started elbowing Casey in the head as hard as he could. Casey dropped him down. Scotty started swinging Casey, so Casey wrestled him to the ground and subdued him.
Get the fuck off me, you jackass! I'll kill you!
Then this redhead guy with spiky hair, a black shirt, and blue jeans walks over.
That fucker called my girlfriend a whore. Get him the fuck out of my house.
Then Casey looked over at me and looked at Ken.
Ken, come here.
Ken walked over to us.
We gotta get this drunk ass out of here. I got his arms, you take his legs. Cal, you cover his mid so he doesn't try to squirm out.
We lifted him above our heads, and the redhead guy opened the door for us.
Sorry, Rye,
Ken said.
Whatever, man, just don't bring him back,
Ryan snapped. We carried him out to the truck, and Ken went with, to make sure he didn't try to jump out. I went back in to look for Sarah. As soon as we found each other, I began to wonder what happened to Devin. We searched the whole house and couldn't find him anywhere. We looked in the backyard and found him bent down under a bush, puking.
Oh no, not you two.
How much did you have to drink? I asked.
None, dude. I just started feeling a little sick, that's all. Probably something I ate.
He didn't smell like beer, so I knew he was telling the truth. We helped Devin up and walked him over to the curb. We waited for Casey to come back. He pulled in about 20 minutes later.
Can you give us all a ride home, then?
I asked.
What's wrong with him?
Casey asked, looking at Devin.
I just ate something that made me sick, that's all.
Devin faintly replied.
Ah, fuck it, hop in,
Casey grunted. We hopped in and drove off.